I just happened to be out here today doing some work on the Hummer, doing fluid change and some other piddling, and gonna break out the grease gun and lube all the ball joints and such. And it's a fairly nice day today. The snow is melting, and I thought I would, since I have the wheels and tires off, get under here and show a bunch of guys that have been asking me about the solid axle swap. Show a bunch of guys, you know, where to cut, where stuff gets welded on, and maybe get a little more detail to what's going on. So hopefully this lighting is good. There is the basic rig. Using a adjustable coil bucket welded to the frame. I have frame plates tacked on to the stock frames just to give them a little more reinforcement. This area right in here is part of a crumple zone, and obviously if you're going to mount your steering box to that, you want to beef that up. I located the axle center line on the factory center line where the IFS was, so this is stock wheelbase. Axle is a GM Dana 44 low pinion. And these brackets here all came from Ballistic Fab. However, I have since come up with my own that work a lot better than these. I had to do quite a bit of modifications to get these to fit. So what I did is ended up drawing my own up on CAD and laser cut. So if you want any brackets, get a hold of me and I can cut you out some of these. Shock towers are also Ballistic Fab. These are fixed. At the time I bought these, they did not offer adjustable ones. Okay, going underneath, see if I can get some good light under here. A lot of people are asking, well, where do you hook the links up to? And here's what it looks like. As you can see, I'm a wheeler. I drive this truck almost every day, and pretty much every third day I'm slopping through something, so it's pretty filthy under here. Here's your typical, nothing fancy. This is just an off-the-shelf link mount. They mount right in front of this cross member. And there's the one over here. Nothing fancy there. That's all just normal stuff. I'm using Johnny joints on all 6 points on these. However, I'm going to replace these with and use a bushing on the rear on my new ones. On the upper link, I have a 15-degree tower that's angled off this direction, and then here is a 3-hole adjustable upper link mount. This is a 0 degree because you can see the frame bends and it ends up shooting this right where you want to go, so you don't need an angled bracket up here because the frame rail that you're welding to is already at an angle, so that works out pretty good. You know, you have to watch this clearance right in here. That can get tight. Make sure you get your link tower. There's a real nice hole right in here between the oil pan and the motor mount that's perfect for the link tower placement. This link is angled back quite a bit. It's not true straight up and down. It is angled back when you weld it on. I believe this came from Barnes, but you know, all the companies sell something similar. Looking from the rear here, you can see that I've added this little tiny rectangular tower, and then I took the cups off of my rear frame rails and the bump stops off the rear and welded them on. And the cool thing about the GM housing is the leaf spring perches. There's one here that's welded on, and then over here it's cast into the pumpkin. But these actually make great places to land the bump stop on. Otherwise, you have to come up with a different way to control the bottoming out. So I chose to leave these on, and it seems to work pretty good. Drive shaft. This is basically a GM drive shaft from anything from the 70s, except back up in here, there's your double card end joint, and a custom special H3 transfer case flange that you got to have. Now looking from the front of the vehicle, you can start to see how much you have to cut away. Cross member and all that stuff has to go away. IFS and the rack and pinion come completely out. You basically have bare frame rails. On the inside of the frame, I did not use any frame plates, but except for this area right here. And what I did is, this is where the box bolts up. This is a Xterra box, and I have steel tubing sleeves going all the way through this, and I have a piece of 1/4 inch plate on this side, 1/4 inch frame plate that goes all the way back on the outside, and I also have one on the top of the frame rail that you can't see here. Just beefed all that up because you don't want any flex. When you go to a steering box, it works completely different from the rack and pinion. You got to make sure this is good and stiff. I'm using a Inboard track bar mount. Okay, and I'm using the Inboard track bar mount because the steering box is outboard. Okay, usually if you want to use like a Saginaw box or something, it mounts on the inside, or maybe a JK box mounts on the inside. Well, then you probably want to move this to an outboard track bar. So I like this box. Seems to fit the truck real well, so to get it in, I used an Inboard. Track bar's nothing fancy. This axle mount here for the track bar, this is all stick built by myself, and I just cut it out of steel, and I'm trying to come up with a way to make one, you know, fit other applications. And I've tried 3 or 4 different track bar mounts from all over the place, and I don't like any of them. So I'm gonna look further into making me a custom one of these. Drag link is typical 1-ton GM stuff. You find this everywhere. DOM tubing with weld bungs. All typical Jeep stuff. If you have any questions on you know, 3-link suspensions or any track bars or high steer, low steer, any of that stuff, you know, you get on Google and ask the Jeep guys, because they've all been here, done it. This is probably fairly new to the Hummer crowd, but this is all traditional old school Jeep stuff, and it's proven and it works great. Here you can see the remnants of some brackets and stuff that were cut off up in here. You know, plasma cutter. Back in here you can see some, maybe right in here. I tried to get them as cut off as clean as I could, but you know, if you really wanted to get crazy, you could spend days under here with a grinder and get them cleaned up more than that. These are stock GM knuckles, flat tops. Got a steering arm over here, bolted on. I tried to do a high steer on this truck and I couldn't get it to fit. So I ended up using the stock low steer position and then put the drag link above it versus having this bar up here in front of it. I just didn't have the front to rear room to get that in. So even with a low steer, you can tell from this angle, you know, this isn't going to hang me up anywhere, because it's really not any lower than the axle tube itself. So I guess if you're really into extreme rock crawling, that might be an issue, but I've never had a problem with it.